My name is Evelyn Harris. I am 75 years old, a widow, and a grandmother of 4. My hands have grown wrinkled with years of labor. My back aches when I bend, but my spirit has always been unbroken. Or so I thought, until the night I lifted my blanket and saw it. A snake. It was coiled right there at the foot of my bed. Its scales shimmered under the dim bedside lamp, black and green, its tongue flickering out like it was tasting the very air of my terror. My chest froze. My hands trembled. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape before the snake could strike. For a moment I couldn't even scream. I just stood there, my frail body paralyzed. My bed, the only place I ever felt safe, had become a battlefield. And then from the hallway I heard it. A giggle. Not of fear. Not of shock. Sly, muffled laugh. It was her. My daughter-in-law. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have predicted, was that the trap she set for me was already rigged to turn against her. And within moments, the snake she wanted to destroy me with would become her own downfall. But before I tell you how that night ended, let me take you back to the beginning, because betrayal like this doesn't happen overnight. Bruise. Festers. It grows in silence until it is too big to contain. And that's exactly what happened in my family. Have you ever trusted someone so much that you didn't see the knife in their hand until it was already pressed against your back? That's the story I'm about to tell you. I wasn't always this cautious woman you see before you. I was once a wife who loved deeply, a mother who sacrificed everything, and a grandmother who gave without thinking twice. My husband Henry and I built our life from scratch in a small town in Georgia. He worked at the mill, I cleaned homes. Together we raised 3 children, 2 daughters and my son, David, the youngest. David was my joy. My baby. The boy who used to hold my hand when we walked to church, who promised me when he was 8 years old that he would always take care of me when I grew old. And for many years I believed him. But promises like glass can shatter. The first cracks appeared when he met her, the woman who would one day become my daughter-in-law. Her name was Vanessa. First she charmed everyone. Tall, pretty, with a smile that could light up a room. But behind that smile was something darker. I saw it. A hunger. Coldness. A way she looked at my son that wasn't love. It was possession. I should have trusted my instincts then. But mothers always want to believe their children know best. So when David brought her home and said, "Mama, this is the woman I'm going to marry," I swallowed my doubts and smiled. I didn't know then that I was opening the door to my own tormentor. First, the changes were subtle. Vanessa insisted on rearranging my kitchen when she visited. She told me my old curtains looked cheap. She smirked when I wore my church hats, calling them costumes. I laughed it off, thinking she was just young and proud. But over time, the smirks became sharper, the words crueler. David never noticed, or maybe he chose not to. He was blinded by her beauty, by the way she clung to him in public, making him feel like a king. And when I tried to warn him, he'd just smile and say, "Mama, you're overthinking. Vanessa loves you. Loves me." If love is what she had for me, then why did my bedroom, my sanctuary, end up with a venomous snake planted inside it? The night before the snake incident, things had already begun to boil. We had argued at the dinner table. Vanessa criticized the way I folded the laundry, saying, "Maybe you're too old to handle chores now." I bit my tongue. But inside, the humiliation burned. Later, I overheard her whispering to David in the kitchen, "Your mother is a burden. We can't live like this forever." Burden. After all my years of sacrifice, after giving up my youth to raise him, I had become a burden in his wife's eyes. And yet, nothing could have prepared me for the sound of that hiss in my bed the following night. I leaned closer, my breath shallow, my hands gripping the wooden bedpost for balance. The snake's eyes gleamed, unblinking, watching me. Its body coiled tighter, ready to spring. Then the giggle came again. Louder. Closer. I turned my head toward the door. There she was, Vanessa, standing in the shadow of the hallway, her arms folded, a smirk plastered across her face. She didn't even bother to hide. "Sleep well, Mama Evelyn," she whispered, her voice dripping with venom sharper than the snake's own. But what she didn't know was that I had already seen the signs. I had already set my own trap. And in the next few seconds, the snake she planted would slither away from me, straight toward her. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do if someone in your own family tried to harm you this way? Would you fight back in silence? Or expose them for who they truly are? Stay tuned for the next chapter, because the real revenge hasn't even begun yet. The snake moved first. One slow uncoiling, a glossy ribbon of muscle sliding toward the warmth I had placed at the foot of the bed earlier that evening. The part of my plan I prayed I'd never have to use but set anyway because I knew the malice in this house had grown fangs, and I wasn't going to sleep naive again. The warmth was a hot water bottle tucked beneath a shallow plastic bin with a tilted edge, a crude but reliable drop trap I'd learned watching late-night nature programs after Henry passed. The kind of thing you set when you don't want to kill, just to prove a point. And tonight that point was breathing and hissing under my quilt. My cane tapped once on the wood to nudge the serpent's attention away from my bare ankles, and it turned like a thought, head gliding toward the heat source, tasting the air with a forked curiosity that made my throat tighten and my mind sharpen the way fear can cut butter into steel. Behind me, Vanessa's smirk widened at the doorway, but then her eyes flicked down to the floor where I'd laid an old runner rug half over the drop trap edge. And confusion crept into her face like dawn bleaching out the stars, a shade too late for comfort. The snake reached the tilted lip, slid its weight forward, and thup, the bin fell, the edge slapped down, and the creature was inside with a furious knock of tail and thrum of breath, rattling plastic as if to announce not just capture but confession, though the words were mine to speak and I wasn't done yet. Vanessa jumped, her perfect mouth opening into a graceless O. And for the first time since she crossed my threshold, I saw her mask slip, the well-polished calm cracking to show raw, startled cruelty underneath. "You caught it," she spat, voice pitched too high for the time of night, for the kind of daughter-in-law who claimed to love me and called herself family when the neighbors asked, which they often did because small towns collect questions like potholes collect rain. "I didn't catch it," I said, my voice steady with the kind of age that comes from burying a husband and outliving your best friend. The kind that doesn't tremble when snakes or people slither too close. "I let it show me who brought it." Her gaze snapped to the nightstand where my old smartphone sat face down with the camera on, a second lens peeking from a vase of silk peonies that never wilted, not even around sin, and her pupils tightened, then flared, like a woman reading her own handwriting in a stranger's hand. From down the hall, a door creaked. The sound of my son, David, waking, late as always to whatever fire was burning his house down from the inside. A habit he learned after wedding a woman who told him every blaze was a birthday candle if she was the one holding the lighter. "Mama," he called, thick with sleep, heavy with the kind of trust that makes mothers cry alone at 2 a.m. so their boys don't have to hear how disappointment drowns slower than any river. "In here," I said, because I never stopped inviting him into the truth, even when he'd started choosing the prettier lie. He stepped into the doorway, hair sticking up, wearing those plaid pajama pants I bought him last Christmas because his father would have wanted him warm, and he froze at the sight of the bin, the snake, the way Vanessa had one heel hooked on the hallway threshold as if the wood refused to let her cross without paying a toll in dignity. What is that?" he stammered, which was a question too small for the night but the only one he knew to ask when reality finally reached out and touched his cheek. "Your wife brought me a bedtime story," I said softly, because humor is a blade you can keep in your apron, sharp and clean, until it's time to cut through fog. Vanessa's laugh came out shattered. "She's senile, David. This is a setup. She's crazy." The bin rattled, hard enough to skip half an inch across the rug, and David stumbled back, knocking his shoulder into the doorframe he didn't pay attention to when he moved into my home 2 summers ago. The frame Henry had sanded smooth so I wouldn't catch my sweater when I carried laundry. "Don't move," I warned, not for her but for the foolishness that loves to sprint when the truth arrives breathing evenly. And then I lifted the second part of my plan off the dresser. A mesh laundry basket turned upside down, meant to cap the first in case panic gave the snake more muscle than sense. From the corner of my eye, I saw Vanessa reach into the pocket of her robe, fingers fumbling for something she wasn't ready for me to know she had. And that's when my neighbor's advice from earlier in the week rang in my head like a church bell, low and steady. "When evil starts practicing, you quit whispering and start documenting, Eve." I had called Curtis 4 days ago after I found dry soil on my bedroom floor when I hadn't been outside, after I noticed the back door latch sitting crooked, after I smelled something musky in the laundry room that didn't belong to detergent or grief. Curtis used to work animal control out in the county, and though retirement had softened his waistline, it hadn't dulled his eyes. He came over for coffee and left telling me to place flour by the baseboards, to check the vents, to set a warm decoy near my bed and a pan with high edges beneath it, and, more importantly, to turn on that old camera phone of mine and tuck it into the peonies like a secret watching angel. I had done every last thing, because when you are 75 and alone in your own house with people who claim to love you, you learn to sew your safety into the seams of the sheets you wash by hand on Tuesdays. David took a step toward the bin, and the snake thumped again, and he jumped back with a yelp he tried to swallow but couldn't, and for one bright, painful second I saw my little boy again, the one who couldn't walk past a garden hose without asking if it would bite him, and I had to grip my cane to keep from walking across 2 decades and gathering him to my chest. "Don't touch it," Vanessa hissed, and there was panic in her voice, but not for David. And that's when my suspicion hardened into knowing the way raw sugar burns into caramel when you leave it overheat and stop pretending it'll cool itself. "What's in your pocket, Vanessa?" I asked, light as a prayer before supper, and her hand froze mid-dip like she'd touched ice where she expected a switch. "Nothing," she said too fast. And fast is a siren if you've lived long enough to hear it. Then my phone, my real phone in the kitchen, buzzed with the harsh note of the silent alarm I'd set to ping Curtis if I held the brass button under the windowsill for longer than 3 seconds, which I had the moment I saw her shadow fill my doorway. Lights swung across the front curtains, headlights entering the drive, then a quick rap at the back door, close to the kitchen, where friends come in because they know the front is for strangers and holidays. "It's Curtis," came the whisper through wood and paint and years of Sunday cake plates passed over fences, and relief trembled through me like a violin string plucked by the good Lord's steady hand. Vanessa's face twisted. "You called the neighbors," she snapped, as if small towns don't keep each other breathing when family forgets which way is up. "I called a witness," I said, and the word hung like a lantern in a storm. Curtis shuffled in, boots quiet, eyes moving, the way men do when they used to get called to houses where panic leaked out of electrical outlets and ran under doors, and he took one look at the bin and grunted. "Pantherback," he murmured, peering, though I knew he was naming pattern more than species. Not venomous, likely black racer or rat snake. Scared, not hunting. Still not bedtime company for a woman in her 70s. Vanessa exhaled a fake relief so heavy it faltered under its own weight. "See. It's harmless," she said, and stepped closer like a person eager to rewrite history as it happens. "Harmless until it bites 'cause someone stressed it," Curtis said without turning his head, and then he cocked a brow at me. "You got your camera on, Eve?" "In the peonies," I said, and Vanessa flinched like the word pricked. Curtis's mouth tightened in a way I'd learned meant good, as in good for later, not good for now, and he knelt slow, lifted the laundry basket I'd placed atop the bin, and slid a flat board under the entire contraption like he was icing a cake that might wake up angry. "David," he said, gentle as a coach from long ago, "grab me that duct tape from the mudroom so I can secure the edges before we move this guest back outside." David obeyed, because men who used to be boys in towns like ours will listen to the neighbor who taught their little league team to keep their eye on the ball and their hands to themselves. And while he was gone, Vanessa finally pulled her hand from her robe pocket. She was holding a small cloth drawstring bag, the kind you get from jewelry stores or farmers markets when someone wants to make cheap look elegant. And there, clinging to the fabric, was a single dark scale, as unmistakable as fog on a cold morning if you've ever seen fear up close and learned its fingerprints. Curtis saw it too, and his brows climbed. Slow as sunrise over a river you can cross in 5 steps if you know where the stones are. "New purse?" he asked, conversational and casual, the way you speak when you're giving a rattlesnake a chance to slither away from a child's bare foot. Vanessa shoved the bag back into her pocket, but the movement was too late and too loud, and in that sound I heard the clink of something else inside. Something like a small plastic carrier lid, or maybe the metal clips folks use on fish tanks when they transport things that can slither where they shouldn't. David came back with tape, saw his wife's hand halfway hidden in her robe, saw Curtis's eyes tracking the pocket, and you could almost hear the gears finally grind and catch in his head, like some engine neglected too long but too sturdy to die. "What's in your pocket?" he asked, tone halfway between husband and police officer. A job he never had but a posture he tried on now that the room stank of truth and reptile. Chapstick, she lied. And it was almost funny she aimed so small after reaching so large. Curtis taped the bin to the board and stood, rolling his shoulders like a man who'd hauled heavier, meaner things out of kitchen corners. And then he nodded toward the nightstand. Eve, you want me to stop that video and save it before the battery dies? Vanessa's head whipped toward the peonies again, fear finally crawling naked across her face where pity couldn't cover it. And in that moment David looked at me the way boys look at their mothers when they step into their first winter and realize she wasn't making up the cold. Video, he repeated, not angry yet, not sorry either, just suspended. I didn't answer him, not then, because I was busy watching my daughter-in-law, who had started to shake her head, tiny and tight, as if she could deny an entire night, an entire pattern of nights, back into the dark. Let's get the guest outside, Curtis said, lifting the board. And he carried it to the back door while the snake thumped again and again like it was knocking for mercy that looked a lot like fresh air. On the patio, under the weak porch light, he eased the bin open just a crack, tipped the board, and the long, sleek body slid out, vanished into the garden where the rosemary grows, and the world, for one fragile minute, felt like it might tilt back toward right. He came back in, wiped his palms on a rag, and surveyed us like a man measuring timber before deciding where to cut. You good, Eve? He asked, and I nodded because I knew the danger hadn't left with the snake. It had just straightened its hair and tried to smile. Vanessa recovered her composure with the speed of a liar who's almost gotten away with it, smoothing her robe, sharpening her voice. This is ridiculous, she snapped. Your mother is paranoid, David. That thing probably crawled in under the door. Old houses aren't sealed. You should be mad she's staging theatrics in the middle of the night. Her words skittered across the floor like roaches when the light comes on, but there was something different in David's eyes now. The fog thinning as he glanced from the peonies to her pocket to the back door latch Curtis had mentioned last week was scraped shiny like someone unfamiliar had worked it hard. I could have pressed the knife then, pulled out the phone, opened the footage, forced the confession. But age teaches you timing, and I wanted the truth to grow up in his chest and make a home before I invited it to sit at our table. Let's see what the camera saw, Curtis said simply. And I could have hugged that man for the way he plants seeds where storms thought they'd washed the soil away. Vanessa lunged for the nightstand, but David moved faster and laid his hand over the phone, and the look they traded was a whole book no one had wanted to read but everyone needed to. Don't, he told her, and the words, small and ordinary, sounded like a door closing gently on a room someone's been redecorating while you slept. We didn't watch the video yet. Not then. Instead, Curtis cleared his throat. I'll head on home, he said, eyes flicking to me with a question. Do you want me to stay? And I gave him the tiniest shake of my head because I needed my son to hear what his walls had to say without an audience. I'll call the county in the morning, give him a heads up to swing by and check your vents, he added aloud, for show, for calm, for giving David time to choose whether he would open his eyes all the way. When the back door clicked behind him, silence hovered, the heavy kind that settles after a car wreck when everyone is counting teeth with their tongue. Vanessa broke it first. David, are you really going to stand here and let your mother accuse me of trying to hurt her? She demanded, fury curling around each word like steam off a kettle left too long because someone forgot supper burns while you're busy taking pictures of yourself in the mirror. I haven't accused you, I said, and it was true, not yet, not with my mouth, though the evidence had been busy whispering in the corners. She pointed at me, hand shaking. She's manipulating you, she's always hated me. Ever since you married me and stopped being her little boy. I never stopped being her son, he said quietly, and then his eyes went to the peonies again and he reached for the phone, and the world seemed to tip toward either disaster or deliverance. I couldn't tell which, not yet. He turned the screen toward him, thumb hovering over the black rectangle where, if God was kind and my nerves hadn't failed me, there would be an image of a woman carrying a cloth bag into a bedroom she didn't sleep in, a woman setting a bin half under a quilt, a woman who had mistaken my age for absence. Vanessa saw the exact second his thumb dropped, because her breath hitched, and she bolted. Not toward the door but toward me, both hands out like she meant to snatch the phone and the truth all at once, but I'd been a nurse's aide long enough to know how to sidestep flailing and protect what was fragile. She missed my wrist by an inch, stumbled, and her robe gaped, and something clattered from the pocket onto the floor. A plastic lid with air holes punched in it, dotted with a smear of earth and something that shone like a small shed scale catching the porch light's memory. We all stared, me at the lid, David at the video, Vanessa at nothing, because the mind can hide itself from mirrors for only so long. And then the house phone rang, loud and ugly in the middle of the night, like a neighbor's scream. I picked it up because habit is a religion in a home that's kept you alive, and a man's voice slid through the receiver slick as oil on tile. "Did she scream?" he whispered, and before I could answer, he hung up, and the dial tone buzzed like a hornet that knows you don't dare swat with your eyes closed. David looked up from the screen, all color draining, his mouth parting as if to speak, as if he'd just watched something that took the floor out from under his feet and set it back down 3 inches to the left where a trap was waiting. "What did you see?" I asked, feeling the question crack the air the way lightning splits a storm. His throat worked, and when he finally found words, they came out as a broken prayer I wasn't ready to hear and yet had been begging for all along. "Mama," he said, voice raw with a boy's first truth in a man's mouth, "it's worse than you think." If someone in your own house smiled while setting a snake in your bed, would you confront them with evidence or bait them into confessing themselves? What would justice look like to you? Tap like if your heart was racing, drop your take in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The next chapter is where the video plays and the trap snaps shut. David's words hung in the air like smoke after a house fire. Thick, choking, impossible to ignore. "It's worse than you think." My hand tightened on the cane. Worse than a snake in my bed. Worse than hearing the woman who married my son giggle in the hallway while waiting for me to die from fright or venom. My throat went dry, but my heart told me not to press too hard yet. Truth has its own timing. "Show me," I whispered. David swallowed, thumb trembling over the screen as he tapped play. The shaky video lit up the dim room, casting shadows across the walls. The first image was me, sleeping peacefully under my quilt, chest rising and falling with the slow rhythm of a woman who'd prayed before bed, unaware of danger creeping just outside her door. Then the frame shifted, catching the faint outline of the hallway. And there she was, Vanessa. She moved into view like a thief, her robe clutched tight around her, the small cloth bag swinging gently from her hand. She glanced behind her once, making sure David was still asleep in their room, then stepped into mine. Her movements were careful, rehearsed. She lifted the quilt near the foot of the bed and reached into the bag. My stomach turned as the screen captured it, the glistening body of the snake sliding free, tongue flicking, its muscles writhing against her hand. She dropped it onto my sheets with a little shake, then quickly pulled the quilt back over it. But it wasn't just the act. It was her face. There was no hesitation, no regret. She even smirked as she patted the quilt flat, like she was tucking me in for the last time. The camera caught her whispering under her breath as she leaned close to my ear while I slept. The sound was faint, but the words were clear enough. "You're not making it to sunrise." David's jaw locked. His knuckles went white as he held the phone. Vanessa's breathing across the room grew shallow, wild, like a cornered animal. "David, she's lying, it's fake. Your mother edited this." But her voice shook, and the words broke apart before they reached him. "You think I don't recognize your robe?" David shot back, his voice low and tight. "You think I don't recognize our own bedroom carpet under your feet before you walked in here?" I could see his chest heaving, could see his heart breaking right there in the glow of that tiny screen. My boy. My baby. Watching the woman he swore to love and protect try to murder his mother. But then he said something I didn't expect. Something that told me the nightmare had deeper roots. "She wasn't alone," he muttered, eyes still on the video. "There's someone else." I heard voices. What voices? My own voice was sharp, sharper than I meant, but fear was clawing at me. He looked at me, then at Vanessa. "You've been meeting someone. Late at night. I thought it was just you sneaking around, but now I think..." He trailed off, running a hand through his hair, pulling like he wanted to rip the truth right out of his skull. Vanessa sneered. "Oh, so now you want to play detective? Don't twist this." Your mother hates me, she set me up. That snake crawled in on its own. But the phone in David's hand didn't lie. It never lies when it catches the things people think are hidden. You brought this into my house, he whispered, staring at her like he'd never seen her before. And then, as if the devil himself wanted to punctuate the moment, the house phone rang again. The same harsh tone. The same midnight chill. I froze, staring at it. Twice in one night. David picked it up before I could. His voice was raw, sharp. Who is this? A chuckle slid down the line, low, mocking. Then the same words as before, only louder this time. Did she scream? David's face drained of color. He slammed the receiver down so hard the table shook. Who is calling? I demanded. He didn't answer. Not right away. His eyes shifted to Vanessa, and for the first time I saw fear in her. David, don't, she began. Who is it? Pressed. David's voice cracked as he spoke. Mama. I think I know who it is. And if I'm right, this goes deeper than just Vanessa. The air grew so heavy I could hardly breathe. The snake was gone, but another serpent was still in this house, hiding in secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. Tell me, I whispered, though my hands trembled. David swallowed hard, then finally said it. It's someone I trusted too. The words landed like a knife, slicing the last thread of safety I had in my own home. And in that moment I knew, the snake in my bed was only the beginning. Backhand index pointing right. If your own child's spouse set a trap for you, and then you discovered someone else in the family might be involved, what would you do? Confront them immediately or wait for the right moment? Comment below, like this story if it shook you, and don't miss the next chapter, because the real mastermind is about to step out of the shadows. The silence after David's words was the kind that feels alive. My ears rang. My pulse beat so loud in my chest I thought the snake had crawled back and was coiled inside me. It's someone I trusted too, he said again, softer now, like the confession itself could crush him if he spoke it too loud. I stared at him, my son, the boy I raised with my bare hands, the one I shielded from bullies and from hunger, now standing before me with his jaw trembling, torn between loyalty and betrayal. My voice cracked. Who, David? Who else is part of this? His lips parted, then shut again. His eyes darted toward Vanessa, then to the floor, then back to me. He looked like a man trapped in a burning house, not sure which window to jump from. Vanessa crossed her arms, her voice dripping with venom. Don't you dare, David. You say one word, and you'll regret it. Her threat was like gasoline poured on already spreading fire. Regret. I spat, my anger finally breaking free after years of swallowing her insults, her smirks, her little humiliations. I already regret welcoming you into my family. I regret ignoring my instincts when I saw that snake in your eyes long before you put one in my bed. Vanessa flinched, then recovered, smiling with that smug, cruel curl of her lip. Careful, Evelyn. Don't forget who runs this house now. But the moment she said it, David snapped. His voice thundered louder than I'd ever heard. No. This is my mother's house. The walls shook with his words. Vanessa's face lost its color. I felt something deep inside me, something I thought had died years ago, flare up again, hope. But it was short-lived, because the house phone rang a third time. That shrill sound cut through us like a blade. David lunged forward, grabbed it before I could stop him, and barked into the receiver. Who are you? What do you want? The same voice came through. Almost amused. Careful, son. Snakes bite when cornered. Then the line went dead. David slammed the phone down. His hands shook. He turned to me, finally breaking. Mama. It's not just Vanessa. His eyes glistened. It's someone from our own bloodline. The words stabbed me deeper than any knife could. What do you mean? My knees felt weak. He rubbed his face with both hands, muttering. I didn't want to believe it. I thought I was imagining things. But I've been hearing Vanessa on late calls for months. And once I recognized the other voice. He looked at me, guilt eating him alive. It was Daniel. My heart stopped. Daniel. My eldest grandson. My pride. My sweet boy who used to bring me wildflowers and say I was the best grandma in the world. No, I whispered, shaking my head. Not Daniel. Not my Daniel. Vanessa smirked. Believe it, Evelyn. Your precious grandson is smarter than you think. He knows there's money in this house. He knows you're old and standing in the way. He's ready to take what should be his. The room spun. I gripped my cane so hard my knuckles ached. David's voice broke. I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. But tonight when the phone rang the first time, I recognized the laugh. Mama, it was Daniel. I staggered back, my breath shallow. My grandson. My blood. Plotting with this snake of a woman against me. Vanessa's laugh rang through the room, harsh and cold. See. You raised vipers, Evelyn. All that sacrifice, all that praying. It didn't stop your family from turning on you. Maybe you should have died in your sleep tonight. It would have been easier. David whipped toward her. Shut up. But the damage was done. My heart was bleeding in a way no doctor could fix. I felt tears blur my vision, but I held them back. Not in front of her. Not in front of the woman who wanted to see me broken. Instead, I straightened my back as best I could and spoke, my voice low but sharp as glass. You've shown me your face tonight, Vanessa. And now Daniel too. You think this is your victory, but you've just declared war in my house. And I may be old, but I am not weak. Vanessa rolled her eyes. What are you gonna do, Evelyn? Knit me to death. But in her mocking, she missed it, the shift in David's face. The way his shame turned into something else. Resolve. No, he said quietly, his fists balling at his sides. She's going to fight. And this time I'll be fighting with her. Gasp. For the first time in years I saw my son again. Not Vanessa's puppet, not a shadow of himself, but the boy who once promised he'd always protect me. And in that moment, I knew the war had truly begun. Because this wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. This was about blood. And blood betrayal is the kind that scars deepest. The snake in my bed was only a warning. The real strike was still coming. Backhand index pointing right. If your own blood, your grandchild, turned against you, would you forgive them or would you make them face the consequences? Comment your thoughts, hit that like button if this shook you, and don't miss the next chapter. That's where Daniel steps into the picture. And the truth will turn darker than anyone imagined. The next morning, I didn't wake to the sound of birds. I woke to silence, the kind that presses against your ears until you wonder if the world itself has stopped breathing. My eyes opened slowly, swollen from a night of no rest, my mind replaying the hiss of the snake, Vanessa's smug laughter, and worst of all, David's trembling words. Mama, it was Daniel. The weight of betrayal sat heavier on my chest than my own quilt. I shuffled to the kitchen, cane tapping against the floor. The smell of stale coffee lingered, left over from last night when Curtis had left after caging the snake. I poured myself a cup anyway, bitter and cold, because sometimes you drink not for taste but for strength. David was already there, hunched at the table, his head in his hands. He looked like a boy again, my boy. But one who had finally seen the monster under his bed wasn't imaginary. I laid a hand on his shoulder. We have to talk. His eyes lifted, red and tired. Mama, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to believe anymore. If Daniel is really part of this. His voice cracked. He's my nephew. He's your grandson. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. That's what makes it hurt the most. Blood should protect, not poison. Before he could answer, footsteps padded into the kitchen. Vanessa. Her hair was perfectly brushed, her silk robe tied tight, her face painted with that false innocence she wore so well. Morning, she said lightly, as if she hadn't placed a snake in my bed only hours before. Sleep well. I stared at her, my jaw tight. David slammed his mug onto the table, hot coffee splashing. Stop pretending, Vanessa. We saw the video. We heard the call. We know what you did. She tilted her head, smirking. Do you, David? Or do you only know what your mother wants you to believe? She's been against me since day one. You think she wouldn't go this far to turn you against me? Her words were slick, but I saw the panic twitching at the corner of her mouth. David pointed a shaking finger. Don't twist this. You almost killed her. But Vanessa didn't flinch. Instead, she laughed. And what are you going to do? Run to the police. With what? A blurry video and a harmless snake. Please. They'll call your mother senile before they ever believe her. The cruelty in her tone sent fire through my veins. She thought she'd won. She thought I was helpless. But I had survived too much in 75 years to let a snake in silk destroy me. I leaned forward, my voice steady. You're right, Vanessa. Police may not believe me, but people will. People always believe a story when the evidence screams loud enough. Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Before I could answer, the front door banged open. And there he was, Daniel, my grandson. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the same hazel eyes his mother, my late daughter, once had. Eyes I used to kiss goodnight when he was small. Eyes that once looked at me with nothing but love. But this morning those eyes were different. Cold. Calculating. Grandma, he said flatly, nodding toward me as if I were a stranger. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. David froze. Vanessa smirked. Daniel stepped fully inside, shutting the door behind him with deliberate calm. I heard there was an incident last night. I stared at him, searching his face for some trace of the boy I knew. You mean the snake your partner in crime planted in my bed? He didn't even flinch. Instead, he chuckled. So you figured it out. The room spun. My worst fear confirmed not by denial, but by casual confession. David shot up from his chair, fury radiating off him. Daniel, how could you? This is your grandmother. Daniel shrugged. Grandma's lived her life. She's sitting on property, money, assets. Things that could change our future. You think it's fair for her to hoard it while we struggle? She doesn't need it anymore. My cane trembled in my grip. Struggle. My voice cracked with both pain and rage. I raised you, clothed you. I fed you when your mother couldn't. And now you repay me with snakes and lies. Daniel's jaw tightened. You gave me scraps, Grandma. But I want more. And Vanessa promised me more. The words hit me like a physical blow. My daughter-in-law and my grandson. Together. Against me. Vanessa walked over and rested a hand on his arm. See, Evelyn. You thought you could outsmart me. But you didn't count on family blood siding with me instead of you. For a moment the room spun. My son's wife and my grandson, standing united against me. But then I noticed something. David. He wasn't shaking anymore. He wasn't confused. His face hardened, his fists clenched. His chest rose and fell with a steady, dangerous rhythm. He stepped between me and them, his voice calm but deadly. You've both gone too far. Vanessa rolled her eyes. What are you going to do, David? Daddy's boy running back to Mama. Daniel sneered. You'll lose everything if you side with her. Don't be stupid. But David didn't move. He turned his head slightly, just enough to glance at me, his voice low. Mama, you were right. About everything. My throat tightened. For the first time in years he was choosing me. And in that moment I realized something. They weren't just plotting against me. They were underestimating us. And that would be their biggest mistake. Because blood may betray, but it also remembers how to fight back. The war for my home, my dignity, my life had officially begun. Backhand index pointing right. If your grandchild openly betrayed you for money, would you forgive them? Or would you fight back with everything you had? Drop your answer in the comments, hit the like button if this shook you, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. The battle lines are drawn, and the trap Vanessa thought she set is about to close on her instead. That morning bled into noon, but the heaviness in the house never lifted. My coffee cup sat untouched on the table, The bitter liquid gone cold, the air thick with words unspoken. David hadn't moved from his place beside me. Vanessa leaned against the counter, arms folded, eyes glinting with satisfaction. And Daniel, my own grandson, stood by the doorway, posture relaxed, as if he hadn't just confessed to betraying the very woman who raised him like my own. The silence was broken when Daniel finally spoke. "You can save yourselves the trouble of looking shocked," he said smoothly. "This has been a long time coming. Grandma, you've had your turn. You've lived your life. It's time to pass the torch." My cane trembled in my hand. Pass the torch. He spoke like my life was some story he was tired of reading. My voice cracked, raw with disbelief. "You would steal from your own grandmother? You would stand here, in the very house where you took your first steps, where your mother laughed as a child, and tell me I should just hand it over?" His jaw tightened. "I'm not stealing. I'm claiming what should already be mine." Vanessa smirked, resting a hand on his arm as if to fan the flames. "Exactly. Evelyn, you should be proud. He's ambitious. He's not going to scrape by the way you did." The venom in her tone stung worse than the hiss of the snake she'd placed in my bed. David exploded. His fist slammed onto the table with such force the coffee cup rattled and toppled. "Enough. Both of you." His eyes, my boy's eyes, burned with something fierce, something I hadn't seen in years. "You think this is about ambition? About money? You tried to kill my mother. You both crossed a line that can never be uncrossed." Daniel's expression flickered. For a split second I saw the boy he once was, the boy who used to pluck dandelions for me, the one who cried when his goldfish died. But then Vanessa whispered something under her breath, and just like that, his face hardened again. David grabbed his keys off the counter. "I'm done talking. Mama, grab your coat." Vanessa straightened, alarm flickering across her face. "Where are you going?" David looked her dead in the eye. "To make sure you two never get away with this." Her smirk faltered, then returned. "The police won't believe you. They'll call your mother paranoid. That video will be tossed aside." David didn't blink. "Who said anything about the police?" My heart raced. I didn't know what he had in mind, but I knew one thing. The tide was shifting. 4 years I'd felt alone in this house, cornered by Vanessa's cruelty and David's blind devotion to her. But now, finally, I wasn't fighting alone. I pulled on my old cardigan and followed him out the door. Daniel's voice chased us down the hallway. "You'll regret this, Uncle David. Both of you will." The door slammed behind us. The car ride was tense, the hum of the engine filling the silence. I turned to David, my voice trembling. "Where are we going?" He gripped the wheel tighter. "To Curtis. He saw the snake. He helped set the trap. He's known you your whole life. If anyone will believe us and help us, it's him." Relief washed over me. Curtis. The neighbor who'd been more like family than my own blood. A man who had stood at Henry's funeral and promised me, "You'll never be alone as long as I'm around." When we pulled into his driveway, Curtis was already on the porch, sipping sweet tea like he'd been waiting for us. His eyes narrowed the moment he saw our faces. "Something happen?" he asked, setting the glass aside. David didn't waste time. "Curtis, it's worse than we thought. Vanessa wasn't working alone. Daniel, Mama's grandson, he's part of it too." Curtis let out a low whistle, shaking his head. "Family blood. That cuts deeper than any snakebite." He ushered us inside, pulling out a chair for me. "Sit down, Evelyn. Tell me everything." I recounted it all. The snake, the video, the phone calls, Daniel's confession. My voice cracked more than once, but I forced myself to keep going. Curtis listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with each detail. When I finished, he leaned back, arms crossed. "You're right about one thing. The police won't be much help. Not without more evidence. And Vanessa strikes me as the type who covers her tracks." David frowned. "So what do we do?" Curtis leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You set another trap." My pulse quickened. "Another?" He nodded. You've already caught Vanessa on camera with the snake. That's good. But if Daniel's involved, you need proof of him too. Solid proof. Something even Vanessa can't spin. David rubbed his temples. But how? Curtis's gaze flicked to me, steady and knowing. You let them think they've won. You make them comfortable enough to slip. People like Vanessa and Daniel, they get greedy. They talk too much when they think the game's already theirs. All you gotta do is listen. The idea scared me. Letting them feel in control meant walking back into danger. But deep down I knew Curtis was right. If we wanted to protect ourselves and my home, we had to outsmart them. I nodded slowly. Then we'll play their game. But on our terms. David's jaw set. I'll stand with you this time, Mama. I swear it. Curtis smiled grimly. Good. Because once they fall into this trap, there'll be no crawling back out. When we returned home, Vanessa and Daniel were sitting in the living room like they owned the place. Vanessa's legs crossed elegantly, Daniel scrolling on his phone, both of them looking smug. Back so soon? Vanessa asked sweetly. I forced a smile, swallowing the bile in my throat. We just needed some fresh air. I suppose we'll all be under one roof for a while. Best to make it comfortable. Her eyes narrowed, searching me for weakness. I didn't let her find any. David sat beside me, his expression unreadable, though I could feel the tension vibrating off him. Daniel finally looked up from his phone, smirking. Glad you're starting to accept the future, Grandma. I gave him a long, hard look. Oh, I accept the future, Daniel. The question is, do you? His smirk faltered for just a second. Just long enough to tell me he wasn't as confident as he wanted me to believe. And in that moment, I knew Curtis was right. All I had to do was wait. Because snakes always coil tighter before they strike. And when they did, this time it would be their undoing. Backhand index pointing right. If you knew your own family was plotting against you, would you confront them head-on? Or would you wait for the right moment to trap them in their own lies? Comment your thoughts, hit like if you're hooked, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, where Vanessa and Daniel finally make their move, not knowing that the net is already tightening around them. Night came heavy that evening. Heavier than the storm clouds that gathered beyond the hills. The air inside my house felt charged, like lightning was waiting to split the walls open. I sat in my armchair with my cane across my lap, pretending to doze while my ears strained for every whisper, every creak. Vanessa and Daniel were in the kitchen, their voices low but not low enough. I could hear them plotting, words dripping with greed like honey masking poison. She's breaking, I can see it, Vanessa whispered. One more push and she'll hand everything over. That house deed, the savings, the account. We just need to scare her into thinking she doesn't have a choice. Daniel chuckled, cold and hollow. The snake rattled her. Next time we won't just scare. We'll take. Grandma's too old to fight back. I gripped my cane so tight my knuckles burned. Too old to fight back. They didn't know I'd already set the battlefield. David sat across the room from me, pretending to scroll through his phone, though I could see his eyes dark with fury. He caught my glance and gave the smallest nod. He'd heard them too. And Curtis's words echoed in my mind. You let them feel safe. Then you spring the trap when they least expect it. Later that night, Vanessa strolled into the living room, her silk robe flowing, her smile sugar-sweet. Evelyn, she cooed. We've been thinking. Maybe it's time you updated your will. You know, just to keep things simple. I raised an eyebrow, feigning confusion. My will? She sat on the arm of the sofa, leaning close. Yes, you're 75. Life is unpredictable. Wouldn't you rather decide now where everything goes, before, well, accidents happen? Her hand brushed my shoulder. Cold. Calculated. Daniel leaned against the wall, smirking. She's right, Grandma. Or family. You wouldn't want strangers deciding what happens to the estate. I looked at both of them, heart pounding but my face calm. You're right, I said softly. It's time to put everything in order. Their eyes lit up. Vanessa's lips curved into triumph. Daniel's shoulders relaxed. They thought they'd won. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was the tiny recording device hidden under my cushion, picking up every word. The same kind Curtis had slipped me when David and I went to him earlier. "Tomorrow," I continued, "I'll make some calls. We'll draft a new will." Vanessa nearly glowed. Smart woman. David's hand clenched into a fist, but he stayed silent, playing his part. The following day, Vanessa insisted on accompanying me downtown. She dressed sharp, a polished mask over a rotten heart. Daniel tagged along too, swaggering as though the world already belonged to him. What they didn't notice was that David wasn't just driving us to town. He was driving us to Curtis's cousin, a lawyer who'd lived in our town his whole life and knew every trick greedy people tried to pull. Inside the office, Vanessa pushed a pen into my hand before I'd even Saturday. "Here, Evelyn, let's just sign the basics. A deed. The accounts. All in David's name. And of course, he'll share it with me and Daniel." I glanced at David. His jaw twitched, but he kept his voice even. "Mama, if you're ready." I held the pen, fingers trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. Then I placed it down, meeting the lawyer's eyes. "Before I sign anything, I want to read the terms out loud." Slowly. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Fine, whatever makes you feel comfortable." So I began to read. But what I was reading wasn't the paper she'd brought. It was the document Curtis's cousin had slipped onto the desk the moment we sat down, the one David and I had prepared the night before. And every word I spoke was being recorded. "I, Evelyn Harris," I read clearly, "declare that any individual found attempting to manipulate, harm, or endanger me for financial gain shall be permanently disinherited from my estate." Vanessa froze. Daniel's smirk cracked. I continued, my voice steady as stone. "Furthermore, I state that my son, David Harris, is the sole heir of my property and assets. Any other claims are null and void." Their faces drained of color. Vanessa lunged forward, grabbing at the papers. "That's not what we agreed on." But the lawyer slammed his hand on the desk. "Mrs. Harris has spoken. And everything she just said is legally binding." Daniel's fists clenched. "This is a setup." David finally exploded. "No, Daniel. You set Grandma up. We heard your plotting. We saw Vanessa plant that snake. And now we've got your words on record, too." He pulled out the small device from my cushion, pressing play. Vanessa's silky voice filled the room. "Maybe it's time you updated your will. You know, just to keep things simple." Her face twisted in panic. Daniel cursed under his breath. The lawyer's eyes narrowed. "You two should be very careful," he said firmly. "Attempting to coerce or harm an elder for financial gain. That's fraud. That's attempted assault. That's prison time." Vanessa's voice cracked. "You wouldn't dare." David stepped forward, his voice thunder. "Try us." Back at the house that night, the storm finally broke. Rain battered the windows. Lightning split the sky. Vanessa sulked in the corner, Daniel pacing like a caged animal. They knew their game was slipping. And I sat taller in my chair than I had in years. My fear had burned away, leaving only fire. They wanted me gone. But I wasn't going anywhere. And tomorrow, when Curtis delivered copies of those recordings to the sheriff, they'd realize the trap they thought they set had already closed tight around them. Backhand index pointing right. If someone tried to trick you into signing away everything you worked for, would you play along until you had proof, or would you confront them immediately? Let me know in the comments, hit like if you're rooting for Grandma, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, where the storm outside mirrors the storm about to tear this family apart for good. The storm outside raged all night, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside my heart. The rain slapped against the windows like angry hands, thunder cracked the sky, and every flash of lightning lit up Vanessa's pale face where she sat hunched in the corner of my living room. Daniel paced like a wolf in a cage, his sneakers squeaking on the wooden floor, his jaw clenching harder each time the thunder rolled. David stood near me, arms crossed, every muscle taut like a bowstring pulled back to its breaking point. He hadn't left my side since the lawyer's office. He wasn't going to. I sat in my armchair, cane across my lap, my hands shaking only from age. Not fear. Not anymore. Because tomorrow, I told myself, tomorrow the sheriff would have the recordings. Tomorrow the world would know what these two tried to do to me. But tomorrow wasn't promised. Not with snakes like these under my roof. Around midnight, I caught Vanessa whispering again, her voice sharp and frantic. We have to act fast. Once those recordings reach the sheriff, we're finished. Daniel stopped pacing, leaning close. What do you suggest? Run. Hide. Her lips twisted. No. We shut her up. For good this time. The words sank into me like ice water. For good. David heard it too. His eyes flicked to me, then to them. He took a slow step forward. You even think about touching her, and you'll regret it. Vanessa's smile was thin, her eyes glinting with madness. Oh, David, you've always been so soft. But softness won't protect you when the sheriff comes digging into her past. Maybe they'll see her as unstable. Maybe they'll decide she's unfit to manage her own estate. Her words sliced me because they were true in one sense. I was old. 75. Wrinkled, slow, dependent on a cane. It would be so easy for them to twist my age into weakness. But they underestimated one thing. A lifetime of surviving storms. By morning, the rain had eased into a drizzle. Curtis arrived just after dawn. His boots tracking mud across the porch. His expression grim but steady. He carried a folder under one arm. Morning, Eve. Morning, David, he said, nodding at us before turning a cold stare toward Vanessa and Daniel. Sheriff's got the copies. He'll be by later. Thought I'd stop in myself, make sure you 2-inch. He jabbed a finger at them. Didn't get any bright ideas in the meantime. Daniel scoffed. What, you're her bodyguard now? Curtis stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. If I have to be. Vanessa tried to sneer, but her lips trembled. You have no proof of anything. Curtis dropped the folder onto the coffee table. Papers spilled out. Screenshots of text messages, printouts of call logs, and still frames from the recording device. Funny thing about snakes, he said evenly. They leave trails. And you two left plenty. Daniel's face blanched. Vanessa's nails dug into her palms. I leaned forward, my voice steadier than it had been in years. You thought you'd silence me with fear. You thought my age made me weak. But I've got something you'll never have, truth. And truth doesn't die easy. David placed a hand on my shoulder. His grip firm. And she's not fighting alone anymore. The sound of tires crunching over gravel filled the air. Police cruiser pulled up outside. The sheriff stepped out, tall, broad. His hat pulled low against the drizzle. Morning, Evelyn, he said kindly when he entered, tipping his hat. Then his eyes hardened as he looked at Vanessa and Daniel. Heard we've got some serious business to settle. Vanessa shot to her feet. This is ridiculous. She's framing us. She hates me because I married her son, and now she's turning everyone against me. The sheriff raised a hand. Quiet. I've seen the recordings. I've read the messages. You've got a lot to answer for. Daniel started to protest, but the sheriff cut him off. Son, you're in deep. And the more you talk, the deeper you're digging yourself. Vanessa's mask cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were crocodile tears. David, please, she begged, turning to him. Tell them she's lying. Tell them you don't believe this. But David's voice was steel. I believe my mother. And I believe the evidence. You almost killed her. Both of you. And now you'll pay. The sheriff nodded. That's right. You'll both be coming with me. He motioned to the deputies behind him, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw fear in Vanessa's eyes. Real fear. Daniel cursed under his breath as they cuffed him. Vanessa screamed, thrashing against the deputies, her silk robe slipping down her shoulder. You can't do this. This is my house too. I rose slowly, cane steady in my hand. My voice cut through her cries like a blade. No, Vanessa. This was never your house. And it never will be. The deputies dragged them toward the door. The storm outside had calmed, but inside me another storm raged, one of grief, anger, and strange relief. Because the snake had been caught. But deep in my bones I knew something. This wasn't over. Vanessa wasn't the kind to go quietly. And Daniel, my blood, wasn't the type to repent behind bars. They'd come back. One way or another. And when they did, I had to be ready. Backhand index pointing right. If the people who betrayed you were finally arrested, would you feel safe again? Or would you prepare for the day they try to come back? Comment your thoughts, hit like if you're rooting for Grandma, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, where Vanessa's last desperate move shakes the family to its core. The sheriff's cruiser rolled away with Daniel and Vanessa in the back, their faces pressed against the glass like caged animals. For the first time in weeks, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I lowered myself back into my chair, gripping the armrest with trembling hands. You'd think I'd feel relief, maybe even joy, that the ones who tried to kill me were finally out of my home. But relief never came. Instead, dread sat heavy in my chest. Because evil like theirs doesn't vanish in handcuffs. Evil waits. Evil schemes. Evil crawls through cracks in the system until it finds a way back in. And I knew Vanessa too well. She wasn't finished with me. Not yet. By evening the house felt lighter. David brewed a fresh pot of coffee, humming under his breath like he used to when he was a boy helping me hang laundry on the line. Curtis stopped by with a pie his wife baked, insisting food would put strength in my bones. We ate together, laughed a little, even shared stories from years ago. For a moment it almost felt like family again. But just as I started to believe peace had returned, the phone rang. That same sharp ring that had haunted the last few nights. The room went still. David reached for the receiver, but I stopped him with a shake of my head. I lifted it slowly, pressing it to my ear. Hello. Silence. Then a soft hiss, followed by a whisper I knew all too well. You haven't seen the last of me. Vanessa. The line went dead. My hand shook as I set the phone down. She called, I whispered. David's face darkened. That's impossible. She's locked up. But Curtis shook his head. Jail don't keep phones out of people's hands. She's got connections. Someone smuggled her access. Clenched my cane. She won't stop. 2 days later the storm returned. Not of rain but of chaos. I was sitting on the porch, enjoying the rare warmth of sunlight, when a black SUV pulled up. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit, slick hair, and a briefcase. He looked out of place in our small town, where dirt roads still outnumbered paved ones. Mrs. Evelyn Harris? He asked politely. I nodded, suspicious. I represent Vanessa Harris, he said smoothly. She's filed an appeal. Claims she's being framed by you and your son. Claims you're not mentally fit to manage your own affairs. The words struck like a blow to the chest. Excuse me, I demanded. He opened his briefcase, pulling out a stack of papers. She's petitioning the court to have you declared incompetent. If successful, all decisions about your estate would fall to your nearest relatives, including her husband, your son. David's face turned crimson. She's insane. After everything she did, she wants to take my mother's rights away. The man shrugged. The court will decide. You'll receive your summons within the week. And just like that, the SUV was gone, leaving dust in its wake and terror in my chest. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the memory of the snake crawling back into my mind. Vanessa had failed to kill me with venom, so now she wanted to strip me of dignity, of control, of the life I built. She won't win, David said firmly, sitting on the edge of my bed. We have the recordings. We have witnesses. We'll fight this. But my heart ached, not just for me but for him. My son had married a woman who would rather see me in the grave than see me live free. And worse, she'd dragged my grandson into it. David, I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. What if she destroys us before we even step foot in court? He gripped my hand. Then we fight harder. Mama, you didn't survive 75 years just to be broken by her. We'll beat this. Together. His words gave me strength. But in my gut, I knew Vanessa wasn't finished escalating. And I was right. 2 nights later, the sheriff knocked on my door again. His face was grim. Evelyn, he said quietly. We've had a break-in at the evidence storage. My stomach dropped. What was taken? David asked quickly. The sheriff hesitated. The recordings. The device with Vanessa on tape. It's gone. The room spun. All our proof gone. David cursed under his breath, pacing the floor. She's pulling strings from inside. She's got someone helping her. The sheriff sighed. We'll investigate. But until then, it's your word against hers. And just like that, Vanessa had slithered free of the cage. That night, the phone rang again. This time I didn't hesitate. I picked it up, pressed it to my ear and whispered, "What do you want from me?" Vanessa's voice purred through the line. "Everything, Evelyn. The house, the money, the legacy. And if you don't hand it over, then next time it won't be a snake in your bed. It'll be your son." The line went dead. My knees buckled. My cane clattered to the floor. 'Cause now I understood. She wasn't after me anymore. She was after David. Backhand index pointing right. If someone threatened not just your life, but your child's life, would you give in? Or would you fight harder? Let me know in the comments, hit like if your heart's racing, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. The shocking finale where Vanessa's final strike turns deadly, and Evelyn must decide once and for all how far she's willing to go to protect her family. The night after Vanessa's call, I didn't sleep at all. Every creak of the old house felt like footsteps. Every shadow stretching across the wall looked like a figure creeping closer. But it wasn't my life I feared for anymore. It was David's. Her words replayed in my head like poison dripping, drop by drop. Next time it won't be a snake in your bed. It'll be your son. I sat in my chair until dawn, gripping my cane like a weapon, eyes burning from sleeplessness. The rooster crowed outside, but peace never came. Because I knew what Vanessa was capable of. I knew she wasn't bluffing. By mid-morning, David stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. He froze when he saw me still sitting there, my coffee untouched, my face pale. "Mama," he said gently. "Did you stay up all night again?" He nodded. "She called." His jaw tightened. "What did she say?" I swallowed hard. "She said, next time it'll be you." The color drained from his face, but he didn't flinch. He pulled a chair close, sat down, and took my trembling hands in his. "Then she'll have to go through me first. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. We'll face her together." His words gave me courage, but deep down I feared that courage alone wouldn't save him. 2 days later the summons arrived. Court in 2 weeks. Vanessa's petition to have me declared incompetent would be heard. But she didn't wait for court. That same evening, Curtis came rushing to the door. His breath ragged, his face flushed. "Evelyn." "David. Sheriff just called me. Vanessa's out on bail." The world tilted beneath me. "She was free." "How?" David demanded, fists clenched. "She had recordings, charges." Curtis shook his head. "Money talks. Connections talk louder. Someone pulled strings for her." My cane nearly slipped from my grasp. "Free. And coming." I could feel it in my bones like the ache before rain. That night I heard it. The crunch of gravel under tires. The squeal of a car door. I pulled back the curtain just an inch. There it was. A black SUV parked outside the gate. Headlights off. Engine running. "She's here," I whispered. David grabbed the phone to call the sheriff, but the line was dead. The storm earlier must have cut it. Curtis loaded his shotgun in the corner. "Then we're not waiting." But I stopped him. My voice was firm, steady. "No guns. Not yet. If she wants to play snakes, We'll let her slither right into the trap she set for herself. Because while she'd been plotting, I'd been preparing. The week before, after her first arrest, Curtis had helped me rig the house. Cameras in the hallway. Motion sensors near the doors. Even a hidden recorder in the basement, where I suspected she'd try to sneak in. I wasn't just waiting for her. I was ready. The back door creaked open. David tensed. Curtis raised his shotgun, but I lifted a hand. Let her. Footsteps crept down the hallway. Light, deliberate. The soft scrape of shoes against wood. And then her voice. Sweet, mocking. Evelyn. She appeared in the doorway, dressed all in black, her hair pulled back tight, her eyes glittering like glass. She held a kitchen knife, its blade catching the dim light. David stepped in front of me. Drop it, Vanessa. She laughed. Cold, hollow sound. Why would I? I warned her. I told her it'd be you next. And I keep my promises. She lunged. Time slowed. The knife gleamed. David braced himself. Curtis shouted. And then the trap sprung. The hallway lights blazed on. Cameras clicked. A piercing alarm screamed through the house. Vanessa froze, caught in the blinding light like a rat. Curtis was on her in an instant, knocking the knife from her hand. David wrestled her to the floor, pinning her arms. She thrashed, cursed, spat, but there was no escape this time. Because everything was captured. Every word, every move. Her final strike had become her undoing. Minutes later, the sheriff's cruiser pulled up, red and blue lights flashing against the walls. Deputies dragged her out screaming, her voice cracking through the night. You think this is over, Evelyn? You think you've won? I stepped to the porch, my cane steady, my voice strong. It is over, Vanessa. The trap you set for me finally caught you. The sheriff tipped his hat. With this footage, she won't be seeing daylight again for a long, long time. Daniel was already behind bars, his betrayal sealed. Vanessa was gone too. And at last, after weeks of snakes, whispers and storms, the house was quiet. Truly quiet. The following Sunday, I sat on the porch swing, the morning sun warm on my face. David brought me coffee, steaming and rich, and sat beside me. Mama, he said softly, I'm sorry. For not seeing her for who she was. For letting this go so far. I squeezed his hand. You opened your eyes when it mattered most. That's what counts. He looked at me, tears glistening. How do you forgive after all this? I stared out at the fields, the dew sparkling like diamonds. I don't forgive snakes for being snakes. But I thank God for the lesson. And the lesson is this. Evil might crawl into your home, even wear the face of family, but it can never win if you stand your ground. For the first time in years I felt peace. True peace. Because I had faced the snake. I had survived. And more importantly, I had shown my son that even in old age, a woman can still be stronger than the venom meant to kill her. Backhand index pointing right. If this story shook you, hit the like button, drop a comment telling me how you would have handled Vanessa, and subscribe for more stories of strength, betrayal and justice. Because sometimes, the quietest voices roar the loudest in the end.